Workers' comp is the fastest video in this module because for the majority of coaches watching it, the answer this year is straightforward. Not applicable yet. Bookmark the unit. Come back when something changes. The trigger is W-2 employment specifically. The shape of the lesson is therefore short on purpose. Enough depth for a coach who has employees today or is about to have employees within the next quarter to act correctly. No padding for a solo coach who can confirm not applicable in 30 seconds and move forward to the next module. The architecture of this unit is two parallel paths that branch on a single yes or no question. Path 1. No W-2 employees, no immediate registration, bookmark the lesson, and add a hiring intake trigger that brings you back here when something changes. Path 2. W-2 employees on payroll already or coming onto payroll in the next quarter. Work the registration sequence before the first paycheck cuts. The trigger is binary, and the consequence of mishandling each path is asymmetric. Skipping registration when it is required is a much larger problem than registering early when it was not. What triggers workers' comp registration is W-2 employment, and the distinction between W-2 and 1099 is the load-bearing line. A $5,000 contractor you hired for website work is not an employee for this purpose. That is a 1099 relationship, no payroll account, no workers' comp obligation tied to her. An associate coach you put on payroll at 20 hours a week is an employee. W-2, payroll account, workers' comp policy required before that first paycheck. Entity type does not matter. Revenue does not matter. The presence of a single W-2 person on your payroll is what flips the switch. Solo coaches without employees are the majority of the audience for this lesson, and the answer for that group has one small wrinkle worth knowing about. Solo S-Corp owner employees pay themselves a W-2 salary out of their own company, which on its face looks like the W-2 trigger should apply. Most states explicitly carve out an exemption for solo S-Corp owner employees provided there are no other employees on the payroll. The exemption is common across states, not universal. Verify it for your state through the Workers' Comp Board before assuming you're exempt because someone in a different state told you they were. Training schools and coaching firms with instructor or associate coach employees sit on the other side of the trigger, and the timing rule there is unforgiving. A training school running ACC and PCC cohorts with instructors paid as W-2 employees needs a workers' comp policy in force before the first instructor paycheck cuts. A coaching services firm bringing on an associate coach at any hours per week count needs the policy in force before her first paycheck cuts. Most states have no grace period. Coverage activates with the first W-2, not 30 or 60 days afterward. Late registration in a state that audits payroll records is an enforcement exposure. Class codes drive the premium calculation, and the codes that apply to coaching work are at the low-risk end of the spectrum. Workers' comp premiums are computed on payroll dollars times the rate associated with the employee's class code, where the code reflects the bodily injury risk of the job being done. Office-based professional work, coaching instruction, administrative roles, all carry low-risk class codes with correspondingly low rates per $100 of payroll. Your state workers' comp board lists the codes. Your payroll service covered later in Module 11.6 assigns the right code as part of policy setup. A handful of states require workers' comp coverage through a state-run insurance fund rather than a private carrier, and the state fund question is the first one to settle before shopping the policy. Washington Labor and Industries, North Dakota, Ohio, BWC, Wyoming. Coverage in those states comes from the state fund, and private carriers cannot satisfy the requirement. Most other states use private carriers, and you shop the policy through a business insurance broker or a workers' comp specialist. The workers' comp quick find resource lists which states sit on which side of that line, so you check once and know which market to call. Penalties for operating without required coverage are different in shape for the two paths this unit covers. For a solo coach with no employees, the question is moot. No penalty exposure because no coverage was required. For a practice that has grown to include staff and has not bound a workers' comp policy, the penalties run from per employee per day fines through stop work orders that suspend the business until coverage is in place. A workers' comp claim filed by an uncovered employee in a state that requires coverage exposes the owner to direct personal liability for the medical and lost wage costs. The risk compounds fast after the first W-2. When the first W-2 hire is approaching, the sequence to follow is 5 steps in order, and the policy binding has to land before the paycheck does. 1. Confirm your state's requirement and identify the state fund versus private carrier path. 2. Get a class code quote from a carrier or from the state fund. 3. Bind the policy and pay the first premium. 4. Add the policy to the annual renewal calendar covered in Module 14.8. 5. Issue the first paycheck. Reversing steps 3 and 5, paycheck first, policy second, is the version that creates the uncovered claim exposure the prior slide just walked. Module 5 closes with this unit, and the founding pack record now carries the 4 accounts the module set out to register. State income tax, registered if your state has it. Confirm not needed if you sit in one of the 9 no income tax states. Sales tax, registered or noted with a trigger if you sell only coaching service today. Local city or county tax, registered or noted with a confirmed not needed entry. Workers' comp, bookmarked for first hire, or in force already if you have W-2 employees today. Module 6 is banking, the layer that gives all of those accounts a clean place to move money through.